Whatever you want.
I guess just kind of what stands out about both Utah and BYU going up.
I mean, Utah is the number one team in the country in terms of assist, right? So they really share the basketball. They're top 50 in the country in tempo, so they play, fairly quickly, and they shoot a ton of threes. And they've got guys that can shoot it. The interesting thing about them is that, their point guards are big. One's 6'2", 6'3", and the other's 6'8", 6'9". We haven't seen that since I guess we played Nevada with the big point guard like that, but they're a well-coached team. Obviously they've had a tough road here to start, man, but that's just part of being in the Big 12. So I'm sure that they're excited and happy to be home, and we've got to go try and win one on the road or two on the road, right? Anytime you get into Big 12 play, you've got to steal some on the road if you're going to give yourself a chance.
You mentioned all the threes they shoot, usually long rebounds, equal more offensive rebounds. Just kind of what's the task in keeping them off the offensive
Yeah,
glass?
I mean, I know this is going to sound odd, but I equate them a little bit to the University of Houston, because they're such a good offensive rebounding team. I think Houston maybe gets 37-38% of their misses, and Utah's right around there, 34-35. So when you shoot a bunch of threes, you've got to check out and box out all over the floor and at all times. So we've got to be great in terms of boxing out and then going to get the basketball. And then on all those misses, because the long misses sometimes equal long rebounds, and you've got to turn that into offense, and we've got to make them pay for missing.
You talked about the assist. Is there anything different, or maybe just something you re-emphasized to the guys this week going against the team?
No, I mean, it's still, playing basketball, but you have to just be aware of where the best shooters are at all times, right? I mean, the two Madsen brothers, they're phenomenal. They both can really, really shoot the ball. And to be honest with you, they haven't shot the ball well in Big 12 play, which is why they probably struggle a little bit. But, who are we to say anything about anybody missing shots? We've missed our share. But no, I mean, you're still playing basketball. Your closeouts have to be a lot quicker. They have to be more urgent. They have to be more violent, and you have to take away the three. You can't be there late, because if you're there late, it's probably going to be 3 points for them.
With a long and grueling Big 12 schedule, obviously you can't focus and hyper-fixate on one win. But for the guys, how mentally or in terms of morale, like how important is it for them to get a win early on in Big 12 play? Is it like a sigh of relief almost?
Yeah, no, not a sigh of relief. Just winning's awesome, right? And losing stinks. And in this league, man, you could go 2, 3, 4, 5 games where you don't get a win just because you're playing such good people and they're so well coached and you're playing in such good environments, right? And I know that Jerome Tang got that question after his. Man, it's hard. It's hard to win on the road, and you got to flush it out and you got to go to the next game. But no, with that being said, the sun shines a little brighter every time you have a win, and you have to celebrate every win. And those guys, they had played hard enough or in spurts. They had played portions of game where they played hard enough to win games. They just didn't do it for 40 minutes. So luckily we were able to put a little more of an extended game together against Kansas State.
Is there a way to take something from that win without and use it moving forward without focusing on one game before a road trip?
Yeah, I mean, if you can play defense the way we did in the first half, I think you can multiply that for 2 halves, kind of like West Virginia in the second half. You've got a recipe for success, but that's still been our problem, is to play 40 minutes.
Khalil was talking to us about how all the guys on the team get along. I imagine that's something that you're actively looking for in recruitment, but whenever you're bringing in as many guys as you had to bring in, just kind of what was the key in getting a team that's going to mesh well whenever it is all these new guys?
Yeah, I mean, you investigate people, right? You investigate people in the recruiting process, and you ask a lot of questions. But really, recruiting, a lot of times it's a very fickle deal. You could have everybody in the world tell you, hey, he's great, and then he get here and he's delusional. I don't know if you guys saw the rant that Mick Cronin had the other day. I mean, when you take all these transfers and stuff, no matter what they tell you in the recruiting process, they still have an idea of what they want to accomplish in their last year, what they want to accomplish in the next endeavor at the next school. And so it's really hard and tough to navigate that. So my staff and I, we just invest an enormous amount of time into trying to make sure that it's not fluff, that it's real, and that these guys are real. And then, you start off 0-2, you're sitting there looking around at them, and there's some cracks in the armor. I mean, we're not perfect, so I'll tell you that up front. But you have to believe in humankind, that you recruited the right people and the character is there, and that in the end they'll do the right things.
Khalil on the court seems like he's got a ton of energy. He's dancing after somebody makes a shot, or if somebody's arguing with the official too long, he goes over in there and separates it. Is that kind of important to have a guy that's seemingly super positive on the floor?
Yeah, Khalil's a positive person. I mean, again, I'm going to give him a lot of credit. He didn't start the other night. He had a great game. He had great emotion. He had energy. I mean, so he handled it the right way. But yeah, I mean, we want every guy to have that positive energy and that positive mindset that Khalil has. And unfortunately, it's hard to have that in athletics, especially when you're playing a team sport, but you have individuals that have individual goals, right?
How do you navigate that? You bringing all these guys together, they all sort of have their own hopes and dreams for the season. Is that, do you try to meet with guys one-on-one? Is that like a team meeting? Do you kind of hope the players themselves, like, through their connection with each other, work through that? How do you?
Well, again, you try to recruit the right people, but I tell them all in the recruiting process up front, I've not promised a single one of you anything. And then I hold true to that. And if and I'm just going to make this up, but if, for example, Brandon and Bryce, like if one of them's not doing the right things off the floor and not producing in practice, they're not going to play. The other guy's going to get to play ahead of them and get every opportunity to get on the floor. So if you set the expectation early, which I do in the recruiting process, and then you follow through, they usually fall in line. It doesn't mean they like it, but they can't look at me and say, hey, this guy lied to me. And I usually don't have any problems, just because I've been very open and honest with them from the get-go.
Are there times in the past where you've been recruiting guys and that hurts you, that you don't want to guarantee guys?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, especially in today's society where these guys want X amount of money and X amount of time and X amount of shots. I mean, people guarantee things all the time and then don't come through, right? And then now you really have issues. And if I miss out on a player because they don't like honesty and they don't think that that's the way it should be done, then let them go somewhere else. I'll find somebody else. It's just not worth it in my mind.
I don't want to jinx him, but Abu's been doing a good job staying out of foul trouble this year. Is that kind of a team game? Is that something that he's doing specifically? Because it seems like that's an important piece for you guys, not only because he's so good, but because he's one of the bigger guys you've got on the roster.
Yeah, no, I mean, please don't jinx him. But no, he's done a good job of his early work. I think he does a good job of making sure he's in position prior to the person catching the ball, so therefore they can't catch the ball as often in their spots or where they want the ball. And then there's still a second piece to that, where I think that our guards, for the most part, have done a pretty good job of dropping down and scraping on the post, or helping on the post, digging on the post, whatever you want to call it, and helping him. But there's also some room for improvement with him in his post defense, because sometimes he'll just let that guy go score, and I'd rather have a lot more resistance. If you get a foul, you get a foul. I mean, we can't just allow guys to catch the ball and go score it where they want to. So probably a combination of all of the three.
Khalil talked a lot about the challenge of all these new guys trying to come together, and he said, we really like each other, but you're still getting to know these guys. We haven't been together, years.
Mm-hmm.
How, I don't know, is there anything in your experience coaching that helps teams, especially teams that have so many new guys, come together during the season, or?
Well, again, I mean, it starts with having the right people. So recruiting good people, but like in the summer, we do a lot of team bonding and those sorts of things. And then when you're pushed to your limits in practice, and our practices are very tough, right? When you're pushed to your limits and you exceed your limits, and at some point, you may break, right? It's great for building team, because you've got to go help your teammate, right? And he's having a tough day and coach is on his neck, and you've got to go grab him and put your arm around him and help him get through it, because you're going to have that day maybe a month later. And that's just how teams evolve, right? You take care of me, I take care of you, we take care of him, and that's how you build teams.
It's safe to say there are practices when you're watching guys and you're kind of like, you see maybe guys get pushed and you're kind of hoping you see that from some of these
Absolutely. Yeah, I want practice, and I've told you the guys this before, I want practice to be harder than the game. Because if we prepared you for everything that you need during practice, then the game should be easier, your reaction time should be quicker, you're just gonna play basketball and go make plays, rather than thinking, oh, well, what did coach tell me here, or how should we guard this? It allows you just to play freely, and that's obviously our hope with every practice.
You mentioned after the game things were looking good for Bryce in terms of his ankle. Has he progressed the way you'd like
He
him to?
practiced today, seemed to be fine. Yeah, I mean, he got on him for some other things, but it wasn't his ankle.